Good evening and welcome. Tonight we will be continuing our read through of this book, History as It Happened. And I am doing this totally unscripted, unprepared. I have not read any of these maps in advance. We're doing it together, reading them for the first time together. Look at that. I just realized I'm all scratched up from the cats. Oh my gosh. Anyway, as you can see, this is unedited, totally random, all that good stuff. So let's see what we've got tonight. As you can see by the title, we're reading about West Asia tonight. So let's see what maps we'll be talking about. We already did these Africa maps. So let's look at West and Central Asia, starting where all history starts, between the rivers. Let's see what it says. The world's first civilization were born in the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, known as Mesopotamia, which is Greek for the land between the rivers. This region in modern-day Iraq was perfect for growing crops, which early societies relied on for food and trade. At first, rival city-states traded and fought with each other before expanding into the world's first empires. Gosh, I can feel the scratch now. This is a fresh one. I didn't realize he scratched me when I picked him up. Anyway, enough of that. Let's talk about Sumer. The first civilization in Mesopotamia is Sumer, a collection of city-states with a common culture. Each city has its own god, who is honored with a stepped temple called a ziggurat. The Sumerians also create the first writing, cuneiform script. So there's the big ziggurat of Ur right there. It says the ziggurat in Ur is dedicated to the god Nana. You can see that Sumer's right here. According to legend, Uruk's thick city walls were built by the epic hero Gilgamesh. Right there. Then we have the Akkadian Empire. In the city-state of Kish, a government official overthrows his king and starts the world's first empire. At its height, Sargon's Akkadian Empire covers most of Mesopotamia and even stretches to the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. The Akkadian Empire lasts for about 180 years before being conquered. So you can see all this gold here. Pretty big, even along the coast here, around the gold there. And we can see Ebla, Kish, and Ur, and Nuzi. It says Sumer swallowed up by Sargon's empire, fully between the two rivers here, Euphrates and Tigris. Then we have Assyria. The Assyrian city-state of Ashur is next to gain power, followed soon after by Babylon to the south. The two powers trade with, fight against, and influence each other for many years. Assyria becomes an empire during Ashurnarpal II's reign between 883 and 859 BCE. At its height, its well-equipped and disciplined army conquers a swath of territory, including Babylon, but it eventually falls to its old foe Babylon around 610 BCE. So, is there a key for this? I guess not. I guess I just have to read the map. So, right here is the greatest extent of the Assyrian Empire in 669 BCE. Oh, I see. And then, yeah, I just had to read it. This little red area here, where you can see Ashur right there. This was the Assyrian Empire in 859 BCE, and by 669 it had stretched all the way to the Mediterranean, conquering Babylon here. It says Ashur is named after an Assyrian god and holds the god's only temple. And here's Nimrud. Nimrud and later Nineveh are made capitals by Assyrian leaders eager to change the way the empire worked. You can see Nineveh here and Nimrud right there. Then we have Babylon. Make sure you can see. Hammurabi, one of the earliest rulers of Babylon, transforms the small city-state into a large empire and issues a law code around 1754 BCE to explain how crimes were to be punished. The Babylonian Empire declines for centuries afterward, but rises again as Assyria falls. The empire ends forever around 539 BCE when it is conquered by the Persians. So here, Babylon is green, stretching all the way from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean Sea, encompassing the Euphrates and Tigris basin there, Mesopotamia. And this looks like Karchemish. In 605, Babylon forces defeat Assyria once and for all in Karchemish. I have no idea. Here comes a loud car. Let's say goodbye, loud car, goodbye, loud car, goodbye, loud car, go, 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 goodbye, loud car, goodbye, loud car, goodbye, loud car, go, go, go. Keep going, loud car. Almost gone. Okay, it's gone. The Babylonians take over the lands previously ruled by the Assyrians. All of this here, and then some by the looks of it. And here it says the Ishtar Gate is a 38-foot or 12-meter high decorated gate that stands over the main street in Babylon. You can see a little bit of it here. This relief of a lion is one of many that lined the streets toward the Ishtar Gate in Babylon. And today the Ishtar Gate is in Germany, or at least the best representation of what's left of the Ishtar Gate. But there is a almost completely rebuilt Babylon here in Iraq. Very interesting. One of Saddam's attempts to bring in tourism. The Standard of Ur is a 4,500-year-old decorated object that shows scenes of war and peace in Sumer. Yeah, anytime Sumer or even just Mesopotamia comes up, the Standard of Ur comes up because it's so complete and has so many little details of just daily life, like farming and crafts, and I think there's even some battle stuff going on there, like war stuff. I don't know. I do not know. And let's look at this big carving here. Let's see what this is. Victory in the Mountains. Oh, it's a stela. This stela, or stone slab, was made around 2250 BCE to celebrate the victory of the Akkadian king Naram-Sin over the Lulubi, a mountain people from modern-day Iran. Naram-Sin was the grandson of the founder of the Akkadian Empire, Sargon, and he can be seen near the top of the 6-foot 8-inch or 2-meter stele, leading his troops over a mountain pass. That must be him right here, the big guy, the biggest guy here. You can see the mountain and the sun shining. Maybe there are a couple suns shining there, looks like. And all the soldiers winding their way up the mountain with all their spears, helmets. Really cool. What a neat artifact. Let's see what's next. I've never heard of the Lulubi. What a great name. The first great empire. I've never seen it spelled like that. I've always seen the Achaemenid. The Achaemenian Empire? That's different. Okay. The Achaemenian Empire, also known as the Persian Empire, was the world's first great empire. In just a few decades, in the 500s BCE, it conquered vast lands from Asia in the east to Greece in the west. Its rulers included founder Cyrus II, or Cyrus the Great, who was renowned for his tolerance and compassion. Let's talk about Cyrus the Great. Cyrus II became king of the Achaemenian dynasty in 559 BCE. In around 550, he defeats the forces of the dominant Median Empire. Over the next 20 years, Cyrus conquers several surrounding kingdoms to expand his empire. So you look how far it's come this time. Here's the Median Empire that he conquered. What's all this peach here? It says Cyrus chooses Pasargadae to be the new capital of the Achaemenid Empire. Oh, I see. There's actually a key here. Persian territory, Persian conquests, major campaigns. And then yellow is royal roads. Looks like that's down there. So at 550 BCE, about, this was Persia, capital Pasargadae. Looks like he expanded out this way, a little bit this way into Babylon, and way over into Lydia. So here at Babylon, it says the powerful ancient city of Babylon's conquered by the Achaemenians in 539 BCE. The king of the Median Empire, Astyages, I think, surrenders to Cyrus in 550 BCE. Way over here in Sardis, looks like Cyrus pushes west and captures Sardis, the capital of Lydia, in about 546 BCE. So that is a vast empire. And got Cyprus too. Looks like some Greek islands as well. Then we head to Cambyses II. When Cyrus the Great dies in 529 BCE, his son Cambyses II takes control of the empire. He follows in his father's footsteps by seeking to gain more territory. Cambyses launches a campaign to defeat the kingdom of Egypt and succeeds in 525 BCE. So this is the same map as before, just now peach because it's officially Persian territory. And here is what Cambyses will conquer over here in Egypt. It looks like a little bit into what's now Libya too. This Cambyses defeats the Egyptians at the Battle of Pelusium in 525 BCE. It's right there in the delta. He then captures Memphis. Looks like he heads towards Thebes, and it says expeditions deeper into Egypt are halted when Achaemenian forces are unable to cross the Sahara Desert. It looks like he started heading south and realized that there's just a whole lot of nothing there. Don't go out this way because there is nothing out there. So he headed up the coast to Cyrene, where there's quite a lot up there on the coast. Then we have Darius I and Xerxes I. In 522 BCE, Darius I becomes king of Persia. Under his rule, the empire becomes its largest and most powerful. When Darius dies in 486 BCE, his son Xerxes I continues the campaign to defeat Greece. It ultimately fails in around 480 BCE. So all this is peach. And let's see what they've gained. They did get some desert, it turns out. I guess if there's nothing there, you can just grab it. It says in 512 BCE, Achaemenian forces take the city of Barca, south of Cyrene. See, they got some over here in Asia. Well, I guess this is all Asia, except over here, but anyway. In more Central Asia, I should say. It says Darius ventures east and captures parts of Central Asia in 516 to 513 BCE, heading out from Pasargadae. And look, here's Persepolis. Persepolis becomes the new capital of the empire under Darius. Now, I thought that Susa and Persepolis were both capitals, but Persepolis was the ceremonial capital where you can find beautiful, or you could find beautiful art like this before Alexander the Great burned it all to the ground. It says Darius commissions the 1,500-mile or 2,400-kilometer Persian Railroad to speed up travel and communications between Susa and Sardis. So let's trace the Royal Road going through Anatolia, crossing all the way down to what's now Iran in Susa. It's a long road. What's happening over here in Greece? I mean, there was a lot going on. You can see that they managed to conquer a bit of the mainland here, doing all kinds of campaigns by land and sea, heading into Salamis and Athens, but they did not succeed. Defeat in the Battle of Salamis in 480 BCE marks the end of Xerxes' Greek campaign. Very famous battles there. What else do we have? It says Darius I worked to organize the empire and commissioned many grand buildings. Look at this. A decorated gold vessel from the Achaemenian period. I've literally never heard it called that. Is that what we're calling the Achaemenid Empire now? I guess so. And then we have the immortals here, the soldiers of the king, I guess. I guess that was their title, king. The armies of the Achaemenid Empire were well organized under their great kings and formed the backbone of their rule. The empire lasted for more than 200 years before it fell when Darius III was defeated by Alexander the Great in 330 BCE. And this is one of the few remaining structures, this wall here, that still stands in Persepolis today. It all got burnt down. We're jumping way ahead in history to the time of Muhammad, the successors of Muhammad. When the Prophet Muhammad died in 632, that's CE now, he had not only set up a religion, he had founded an empire. The caliphs, or leaders that came after him, spread Islam and expanded the empire across West Asia and into North Africa and Europe. But there were divisions among Muhammad's followers that caused rival caliphates to rise and fall. We're starting off with the Rashidun Caliphates. See, and we do have a key here too. Land and conquests. I get it. So we have Abu Bakr and Umar, the first two caliphs of Islam after Muhammad's death, are close advisors of the Prophet. The next two, Uthman and Ali, are his sons-in-law. Together, these four rulers are known as the Rashidun Caliphate. Under their rule, the Islamic Empire spreads beyond Arabia into Iran, Iraq, Palestine, Armenia, Egypt, and Syria. So it looks like at the start of this 661 to, I guess 661, all of this dark green is what already belonged to the Rashidun Caliphate, which is a lot bigger than I thought it would be. I thought it would be like this, or maybe like the whole peninsula and a bit around. That's a lot. My goodness. Oh, that's because I'm looking at the wrong map. That's more like it. That's what happens when I don't rehearse. This is map number 1, 632 to 611. So yeah, just this. That makes way more sense. My goodness. All right, it says the Islamic world at the start of the caliphate is based almost entirely in the Arabian Peninsula, which is what I just said. Now let's see what they conquer. They get the rest of the peninsula. They get the Levant here. It says the caliphate spreads Islam into what is today its heartland in West Asia, all of this area here. And then into Egypt and Africa. It says much of Egypt and parts of North Africa are Christian before the armies of the Rashidun Caliphate arrive. We can see Cairo, Jerusalem, Damascus, Basra, Constantinople's there, I guess for context, so is Lisbon. Now we can read about the Umayyad Caliphate. This makes far more sense now. Get this map first. When the Rashidun Caliph Ali is murdered in 661, the Umayyads win the civil war that follows. From their base in Damascus, Syria, they expand the empire east and west, make Arabic its official language, and build many great mosques. My cat is playing with his sniffy toy. It's got, not catnip, but it's like silverweed or something like that in it. He loves it. He's throwing it around. Okay, that's what that sound is if you're curious. So, yes, this is all of the land at this point. So they go a lot farther east. It says the Umayyads conquer land as far east as India, opening up trading links with the east. They get the rest of the African coast here. It says the Amazigh people of North Africa convert to Islam when the Umayyads invade in the late 600s. And then they start heading up here. After the Umayyads are overthrown in 750, one of their princes, Abd al-Rahman I, keeps control of Spain. I think that was everything there. Yeah. Okay. Moving on to the Abbasid Caliphate, which is orange now. The Umayyads conquer so much land, they cannot control it. A rival clan, the Abbasids, exploits unrest to take power. The Abbasids focused their attention on the east and gained control of the Silk Road trade routes. Their empire slowly falls apart and is ended by the Mongols. It fragments into several smaller entities, most notably the Almoravids, Fatimids, Buwayhids, and Ghaznavids. I've never heard of the Buwayhids. Maybe it's spelled different. Maybe I've seen it before and it's just spelled different, but definitely heard of the others. Of course, the Abbasid Caliphate. Very famous caliphate. All of these are very famous. So let's see what we've got here. The Abbasid Empire is orange. So we've got a lot of the African coast. We've got the Arabian Peninsula. We've got the Levant. We've got lots of Western Asia here. Heading into Central Asia, I suppose. And then the other dynasties are split up here. We have the Ghaznavids over here. We have the Buwayhids here. They've got Basra and Baghdad. The Fatimids are here in what's now Egypt. You can see Cairo. And the Almoravids are part of Morocco and southern Spain and Portugal. Let's see what they say. It says Cairo becomes the Abbasid capital after the Mongols sack Baghdad in 1258. And there's Basra. Baghdad becomes the Abbasid. I should have read that first. Baghdad becomes the Abbasid capital in 762. It develops into a center of religious learning and culture. We just read a history magazine article about that not long ago. And then this says Mongols arrive from the east in the 1200s. I should have read this second. I should have gone 1, 2, 3. Mongols arrive from the east in the 1200s. Their raids and invasions destabilize the Abbasid Caliphate. They still got Cyprus. Then we have the Ayyubid dynasty. The Ayyubid dynasty emerges when the great military leader Salah ad-Din overthrows the Fatimid Caliphate in 1171. Salah ad-Din dies in 1193, but the Ayyubids last until 1260. Under Ayyubid rule, Cairo becomes the Muslim world's foremost city of Islamic scholarship. Otherwise known as Saladin, right? I think in the West he's known as Saladin, but Salah ad-Din is more accurate. Well, I guess that was his actual name. But yeah, in the Western world we call him Saladin. Looks like all this gold belonged to the Ayyubids. See what this says. What's the purple? Crusader states in 1144, and the dark purple are the Crusader states in 1229. This area here, Crusader state, controlled by the Crusaders, trying to retake Jerusalem. This is after the Ayyubids lose power in Egypt. They hold on to a small corner of Turkey until the 1500s. It's up here. Then in 1187, Saladin captures Jerusalem from Christians who had conquered it during the First Crusade in 1099. You can see all along the coast there and then spreading out, encompassing all that land all the way down to Aqaba, straight the Gulf of Aqaba. Under Salah ad-Din and then the Ayyubids, Egypt becomes the most powerful Islamic state. And then back up here, it looks like, oh, that's the Battle of Hattin. Salah ad-Din's victory over a Crusader army at Hattin in 1187 allows Muslim forces to reconquer the Holy Land. Yep. What have we got over here? This looks like Salah ad-Din. Salah ad-Din defeated the Christian Crusaders in the Holy Land and conquered areas of what are today Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, and Syria. Speaking of Jerusalem, here's the Dome of the Rock. The Umayyads begin building this shrine in Jerusalem in 688 on the site of the Temple of Solomon. It is one of the oldest surviving examples of Islamic architecture. It's so pretty. I love all the colors. All these blues and greens are some of my favorite colors. And then, of course, there's the big gold dome. Such a beautiful building. All the arches and columns. Oh, and then we have one more thing up here. The so-called House of Wisdom was a great royal library and center of scholarship and learning built by the Abbasids in Baghdad in the late 700s. Yeah, my new dream after reading that History Magazine article is like Abbasid steampunk, because they were pretty steampunk for like the 700s, 800s here in Baghdad in the House of Wisdom. I want that alternate history. I want that, I guess, like Assassin's Creed game. Maybe there probably is an Assassin's Creed game in ancient Baghdad. They have games of all the eras. But let's talk about the Ottoman Empire. Let's jump ahead again to the Ottomans. In the 13th century, the Ottoman dynasty ruled over a small Islamic state bordering the Byzantine Empire. Quickly expanding their territory, the Ottomans created an empire that spanned the entire eastern Mediterranean in the mid-16th century. After a long period of peace, the empire gradually fell into decline from the early 19th century. Early conquests. Why'd they make this a dark background? I don't know. It's a little hard to read. The Ottomans captured the Byzantine town of Bursa in 1326 and make it their capital. I did a whole video on Bursa. From here, they spread to the east and west, pushing into southeast Europe by 1389. Sultan Mehmed II has conquered all remaining Byzantine territory by the time of his death in 1481. So the purple is the Ottoman territory in 1326. The conquests are in red, and then 1481 in orange is Ottoman control. So, Ottoman territory is just right here. There's Bursa right there. Just this area here. It says Bursa is the first major capital of the Ottoman Empire in 1326. And then we're doing conquests out down to the Mediterranean and out to this side of the Mediterranean. All sides of the Mediterranean here and up along the Black Sea. It says the Ottomans capture Constantinople in 1453, making it their capital and renaming the city Istanbul. They head way out here all the way to Trebizond. It says the Ottomans destroyed the last remnants of the Byzantine Empire in 1461 with the capture of Trebizond. And they even got this area up here. They've got the Crimea, the Khanate of the Crimea, it says. I guess that's what they created. And along the Black Sea coast up here. And they also head into Europe there. There's Bulgaria, there's Edirne. It says, as the empire expands westward, Edirne becomes the Ottoman capital from 1369 to 1453. Goodness, make up your mind. So they conquered this before Constantinople. How brazen. Then we have Serbia up here. Belgrade. It says a failed siege at Belgrade in 1456 stops the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman advance into Hungary. Got a video coming very soon about Belgrade. Look forward to that. And let's see, this says victory over Serbia at the Battle of Kosovo in 1389 opens up Southeast Europe to Ottoman expansion. You can see Kosovo right there. Oh, big battle there. Yeah, Battle of Kosovo changed everything in Europe in terms of the Ottomans invading. They've got Moldavia too. There. And then down here into Greece as well. Smoria. Is that everything? This map, a lot happened in this map. Early Ottoman expansion. But we're about to really expand out here. Number 2, the peak of the empire. By the time of his death in 1520, Sultan Selim I has brought Syria and Egypt under Ottoman control. Later sultans add Mesopotamia, Hungary, and North Africa to the empire. Ottoman expansion is eventually stopped in Europe at Vienna and in the east by the Safavid Empire. So purple is 1481 Ottoman Empire. See, they've got all this area in Europe. They've got all of Greece. They've got all of the Balkans here. They've got Crimea around the Sea of Azov, and they've got Anatolia. So conquest by 1520 is going to head down here into Syria, into the Levant, along the Tiamat toward Mecca. It says Selim I is presented with the keys to the holy city of Mecca in 1517 as a symbol of Ottoman leadership of the Islamic world. And then we've got Egypt here. It says the Mamluk Sultanate controls Egypt and Syria until the Ottomans capture Cairo, right there, and execute the Sultan in 1517. Then conquest by 1566 is this lighter orange. So they've got Mesopotamia and Baghdad here. It says Suleiman I captures the city of Baghdad from the Safavids in 1534, and it remains under Ottoman control for nearly 400 years. We're going to head further down the Tiamat into what's now Yemen, along the coast there. We've got Tripoli, and we've got Algiers, but not Tunis yet. And then it looks like we're going to head up here. Is this the same color as this? I cannot tell. My goodness. Is it 1526? Yeah, it's got to be. Okay. Because here's the Battle of Mohacs. Suleiman's victory at Mohacs in 1526 gives him control of Hungary. Another very famous battle there. But then, we'll talk about Vienna last. Let's talk about, and then they bridge the gap here, it looks like. Okay, now conquest by 1639, that's when they get Tunis here. With the capture of Tunis in 1574, the Ottomans control the coast of North Africa from Algiers to Egypt. Then we've got this area here, looks like lots of Iran and Azerbaijan today. Tabriz is the capital of the Safavid Empire until 1555, when increasing Ottoman invasions forced them to relocate the capital to Qazvin, which is over here. It says in the late 16th century, invasions of the Safavid Empire bring cities on the Caspian Sea under Ottoman control. They've got Derbent and Baku there. And they've got a little bit along the Persian Gulf as well. And then Vienna, the Battle of Vienna. The Ottoman siege of Vienna in 1529 proves unsuccessful, ending Ottoman expansion farther west into Europe. But they did not make it into the Habsburg territory. Yep, a pretty huge empire there. Let's see what happens to them. Ottoman decline. In the 19th century, the people of Southeast Europe gain independence from Ottoman rule, aided by Russia, Britain, and Austria-Hungary. By 1913, the empire has also lost its North African territory to European powers. So let's see what they lose between 1800 and 1913 is all the grain. So they've got all their European land here. It says, after a 9-year war, Greece becomes an independent nation in 1830. And the Russo-Turkish War brings independence to Romania, Serbia, and Montenegro in 1878. I can't tell you how many times I've covered places in Romania or Serbia or Montenegro where I've had to mention the Russo-Turkish War because it changed everything here. They've even lost these islands. They've lost Cyprus, you guys. They lost Crete. They lost, and even this little bit of the Black Sea up here is lost. This little, it's Kuwait. Kuwait is occupied by Britain in 1914. They lose Kuwait there. And then this whole African coast is Gonzo. Tunisia is occupied by France in 1881. Italy takes control of Libya in 1911. And Egypt is occupied by Britain in 1882. They built the Suez Canal and all that stuff along the Red Sea coast there. So all that's left is this purple as of 1915. They still got Istanbul. They still got Anatolia. They still got most of the Levant. I almost said this was the Levant. That's the Black Sea. They've got the Levant. They've got Jerusalem there. They've got Baghdad. You can really see the outline of modern-day Iraq there, can't you? That's interesting. And they've got the Tiamat all the way down into what's now Yemen, along the Red Sea coast. Wow, this is kind of neat. I love how you can just you can see Kuwait, you can see Iraq. That's really cool. Partition of empire. At the end of World War I in 1918, the defeated Ottoman Empire is split into separate parts. France controls Syria, while Britain oversees Iraq, Palestine, and Transjordan. The remaining lands become the Republic of Turkey in 1923, when the last Ottoman Sultan, Mehmed VI, is overthrown. So here we can see some more modern countries. We can see Turkey, they're all in gold. We can see Syria, we can see Iraq now. There's Transjordan as it was known, and Palestine as it was known back then. Interesting. Still the same borders today. Pretty neat. So French Mandate is purple. British Mandate is red. That just means that these areas were administered by those countries. But Turkey becomes independent thanks to Ataturk, Mustafa Kemal. Here's Suleiman I, also known as Suleiman the Magnificent. He's very easy to identify because he has this massive, magnificent turban. Whenever you see a picture of a guy with a turban that's bigger than most of his body, that's Suleiman the Magnificent. Suleiman the Magnificent was sultan from 1520 to 1566. His military campaigns expanded Ottoman territory in the west, south, and east. Under his rule, the arts flourished, and great building projects were constructed in the Ottoman capital, Istanbul. That's a lot about the Ottomans. Let's jump forward again. Just a couple decades, talk about Israel and Palestine. Now, I guess before we talk about Israel and Palestine, be nice in the comments. Be nice in the comments. Don't be mean to people. Don't say rude things about other people unless it's political leaders. You can talk smack about any politician you want, but if you're talking about general groups of humans, do not do that. Do not do that. Anyway, after a long campaign for a Jewish homeland, the State of Israel was created in 1948. Israel promised a brighter and safer future for Jews, but it also severely affected the Arab Palestinian people who were living on the land. This struggle between the two sides has been a long-running tragedy with many killed. Obviously still going on today. So let's start off with the British Mandate, British Palestine. After World War I, the defeated Ottoman Empire is broken up into mandates, or regions governed by Britain and France for a set period of time. Britain ends up with the mainly Arab territory of Palestine, but with the task of creating a national home for the Jewish people, a wish for many Jews worldwide, I wouldn't say all, as long as it doesn't negatively affect the rights of the non-Jewish people also living there. I would say others would disagree with that as well, but still. Let's look at, I guess here's Transjordan. Here's the Jordan River. So Transjordan means along the Jordan River. They've got this area and all down here into the desert. Transjordan is initially part of British Palestine, but it's carved off from it in 1921. And then here is Palestine. It says Syria and Lebanon become French mandates. So it's pointing to Lebanon and Syria there. There's Palestine and there's Jerusalem. There's the Dead Sea, that's the Sea of Galilee. Is that the Sea of Galilee? I've forgotten which is which. Someone will tell me which one it is. Let's head to the United Nations plan where it all goes wrong. As tensions rise, Britain doesn't find a solution that suits both Arabs and Jews, so it passes the problem to the newly set up United Nations. The UN proposes splitting the land between the two, with the city of Jerusalem also being divided. Palestine's Jewish leaders accept the plan, but it is rejected by Palestinian Arabs, as well as the Arab states in the region. So here's 1947 at the dawn of the creation of Israel. What have we got here? Where's the key to this? Here we go. Arab state is gold, Jewish state is orange, and green is Jerusalem. So this is what the United Nations wanted to have happen. So this would be a Jewish area, this would be a Jewish area, and this would be a Jewish area. So the Jewish state was to be 56% of the land. And then obviously all the rest of it would be Arab state, would be Palestine, and then Jerusalem's its own thing. So under the UN plan, the Arab state was to be 42% of Palestine. A little bit right there. Then Jerusalem and the area around it, 2% of the land was to be shared between Arabs and Jews. You know, it's a solution, but there's better solutions, I think. But we won't know because in 1948, Israel's created. Violence breaks out between the Arabs and the Jews of the region. British control breaks down and the UN plan is abandoned. On May 14, 1948, one day before the British mandate ends, the State of Israel is declared by the Jewish leaders in Palestine. They do not say where its borders are. Almost immediately, the new state is invaded by 5 of its Arab neighbors: Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Iraq, and Egypt. But Israel repels the invasions and seizes 50% of the land allocated for the UN's proposed Arab state as well. Many of Israel's Arab neighbors refuse recognize its right. Refuse to recognize, I suppose it's a typo. Refuse to recognize its right to exist. So this is a whole mess of a sentence. Let's try to correct this. Let's pretend I'm a grammar teacher. Refuse to. So borders with them are not set. So just take out so. So its borders with them are not set. All right, we've got it. Many of Israel's Arab neighbors refuse to recognize its right to exist, so its borders with them are not set. That sentence really needed to be corrected. Now let's see what's going on here. So all of the orange here is Israel. Disputed areas are dashed. Invasions are purple. And disputed borders are dotted. So there is Israel as of 1948. Disputed areas are the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. It says the Gaza Strip is occupied by Egypt after the war. More than 190,000 Palestinian Arabs take refuge there. What does it say? The West Bank of the Jordan River. Because it's not west, it's east, right? But it's west of the Jordan River, the West Bank of the river. The West Bank of the Jordan River is occupied by Jordan. The name of Transjordan after 1949, because it's no longer along the Jordan, it's over the Jordan. So it just becomes Jordan. About 280,000 Palestinian refugees resettle or move there from Israel. There's Jerusalem right there on the edge. It says Jordan takes over East Jerusalem after the war. Let's go up here. It says Israel seizes some land that had been earmarked for Palestine under the UN plan. Yeah, because remember, they're going to leave this area. They took it. During the 10 months of the war, more than 700,000 Palestinians, or 80% of the Palestinian population, are forced to leave their homes and go to neighboring Arab countries or territories they control, never to return. It's so sad. And then ceasefire lines act as temporary borders for the new Israeli state. So yeah, along here and along here. And then I guess along the river as well. All right, wars and peace, question mark. Faced with a possible second invasion, Israel strikes first in 1967 and gains control of the Golan Heights, the Sinai Peninsula, the Gaza Strip, and the West Bank. Egypt and Syria attack back in 1973, but fail to retake the land they lost. Afterward, Israel makes peace with Egypt and Jordan. Sadly, attempts at finding a lasting peace that works for Israelis and Palestinians have so far been unsuccessful, with violence occurring at various times, the latest starting in 2023. So here's what we're looking at, 1967 to now. Let's just start at the top and work our way down, shall we? It says, as of 2023, an estimated 700,000 Israeli settlers are living illegally in the West Bank, a source of conflict that makes finding a peaceful solution harder. See the West Bank there. It's technically Palestine still. But yeah, living illegally. From 2002, Israel begins building a barrier wall around and at points inside the West Bank. The UN considers the West Bank and Gaza Strip to be a single occupied territory without set borders. And then here's Gaza right there. Israel occupies the Gaza Strip in 1967, but withdraws its forces and hands it over to Palestinian control in 2005. It has maintained a land, air, and sea blockade of Gaza since 2007. For here in the Sinai, Egypt attempts to retake the Sinai Peninsula in 1973 but fails. Israel hands it back in 1982 after Egypt accepts Israel and sets their border. Since 1967, West Bank Palestinians have lived under Israeli rule but have no citizenship or political rights in Israel. East Jerusalem is occupied by Israel in 1967 and annexed in 1980. So here you can see Jerusalem not recognized. Oh yeah, because Israel says the capital of Israel is Jerusalem. Not every country recognizes that. Otherwise, it's Tel Aviv, which isn't marked up there. Jordan and Israel settled their long border in 1994. Syria fails to retake the Golan Heights in 1973. Israel still occupies it, which is illegal by international law. That's very true. Yeah, the Golan Heights that's a whole other can of worms that nobody really talks about anymore, do they? I mean, there's obviously bigger things going on that we're not going to get into, mainly for monetization purposes. But yeah, that's kind of like a not forgotten, but less talked about part of this whole dispute. Let's shuffle over to the east a bit and talk about oil and land. The turbulent history of West Asia has included conflicts over religion, natural resources, and land. From the later years of the 20th century, a number of wars broke out involving countries of this region. Some spilled out of control, leading to international powers becoming involved in long, bitter conflicts that left many soldiers and civilians dead. So let's start off in 1980 with the Iran-Iraq War, which I always think of it as the Iraq-Iran War. I don't know, that just rolls off the tongue a little easier, but to each their own. After several years of territorial disputes, Iraq invades Iran in 1980. An 8-year conflict results in the deaths of 1 to 2 million people, but with the two countries returning to their pre-war borders. So it says an initial Iraqi assault in September 1980 makes gains into Iran, but the Iranians slowly retake territory. In May 1982, Iraqi forces withdraw from Iran. So this looks like the area that they occupied. It says Iraq wants Iran's Khuzestan province because it is oil rich and has access to the Persian Gulf. You can see right there. Then 1984 to 1988, war flares up again when Iran advances into Iraq. After high civilian casualties, a ceasefire is agreed in 1988. Though more than 1 million people die in the war, it doesn't change the Iran-Iraq border. Let's see, Iran attacked southern Iraq in 1986. You can barely see little lines there showing where they came in. And it says October 1984, Iran gains territory in the north there. But everything went back to how it was. There's Saddam. Was in power from 1979 to 2003. They're probably going to talk about that in a minute. The Gulf War. In 1990, Iraqi forces march into Kuwait after a dispute over oil. Kuwait is quickly occupied. A few months later, the US, the UK, and other countries send forces to the region to free Kuwait in Operation Desert Storm. The Iraqi forces were destroyed in 6 weeks. So here's in 1990. The Iraqi army invades Kuwait in August 1990. It gains control of the country after just a few days. So there's a little Kuwait. Iraq's coming in. Iraq calls on it. Blah, blah, blah. Iraq calls on an army of almost 1 million to cross into Kuwait. Then in 1991, US-led forces begin air and land attacks. From January 1991, the Iraqis are defeated in February. So they're coming in by sea, they're coming in by land, it looks like. Heading this way by air and by sea to get Kuwait. A no-fly zone is imposed over the region. All this here is no-fly zone, looks like. I've said this before, but the Gulf War is like my earliest memory of a global anything happening. And I was a weird kid who liked to watch the news because my parents were doing it, and I probably thought I was very grown up watching the news. So they would show like local news, then they do sports, and then they do the Gulf War. Like that was their coverage. So I thought because it came after sports that it was the Gulf War and that it was some kind of golf tournament that was just getting out of hand. And I was very confused. I was 5 years old, I should say. I was very confused. I didn't know till many years later that it was an actual war. Next, we have the US invades Iraq. Wrongly believing that Iraq is able to build nuclear and chemical weapons, the US launches an attack on the country in March 2003. The capital, Baghdad, falls in April, and when the Iraqis are defeated on May 1st, Saddam Hussein's ruling party is overthrown. So this looks like the US coming in here. Coming in, heading to Baghdad. It says the US and its allies launch a land and air campaign on March 20th, 2003. And then cities in northern Iraq fall in mid-April. Boom, 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 looks like. And then what happens? Islamic State, which I probably shouldn't show this on YouTube. I might get my video flagged if I show this image. I'm going to click that. A group called the Islamic State, or IS, emerges in 2014. They use bad guy violence and their belief in an extreme version of Islam to take over regions of Iraq and Syria, but the land they claim is taken back by international forces by early 2019. So this looks like the area that they controlled in Syria and Iraq. All this dotted here. At its height, IS controls large areas of Iraq and Syria. And then we've got some fighter jets over here. It says, in the Gulf War, a group of 31 countries led by the US supplied aircraft, troops, and weapons to Operation Desert Storm. Following an initial air campaign that lasted for 6 weeks, a ground attack liberated Kuwait in just 100 hours. Is there anything else? Nope, that is the end. I was about to say, what else would there be? I think we've caught up to present day with this map and this map, you know. But yeah, that is the history here. Very long, quite turbulent. Powers came and went. That seems to be the theme of this corner of the world, isn't it? Well, I guess many corners of the world are like that. But nevertheless, we've gone from Mesopotamia to, I guess, 2023 was the latest date they mentioned. So that is it for tonight. These books are so interesting. I'm excited. What's next? What's next? What's next? South and Southeast Asia. That's going to be good. Be sure to subscribe so you won't miss that. I hope that you found this video to be relaxing and educational. Again, be nice in the comments. No rude comments about people groups. Go wild on political leaders. I do not. I couldn't care less about any politician. For any country, go at it. But people groups, ethnicities, don't mess with that. No thank you. But anyway, I hope you found this video relaxing and educational, and I hope that you have a good night. I should say religions too. Don't talk about anyone's religion negatively. I don't tolerate that. Don't talk about anyone's country negatively. I don't tolerate that. But good night. Get some sleep. Have some happy dreams. Good night.